I am pretty sure that a lot of you remember watching Looney Tunes as a kid. So do I. And my favorite character was Sylvester Cat. Until one night at the back of the summer of 1998, I saw an episode that rather frightened me. But since the cartoon played it late at night, when I should have already gone to bed, I was half asleep, so I remember parts of it, like a creepy TV in Sylvester's room that turned on all by itself. I thought maybe it was just a nightmare. Sadly, it wasn't. The next summer, me and my brother were bored on one afternoon, so we decided to watch some TV. We flicked the channel to Cartoon Network just in time when Looney Tunes was starting. It played on for 2 normal episodes of Sylvester. Nothing special, except for one thing. When the second part was coming to its end, me and my brother felt that something isn't right. We thought that it might show that certain episode once again, but then it happened. And this episode didn't have anything usual about the opening, which many of the Looney Tunes segments had. Either the catchy little music, it just skipped right to the title screen, no fade or anything, it just switched right there. There was no title written on the screen. Instead, it just showed the living room of the house. The layouts were drawn entirely with 2 different colors, blood red and black as emptiness. There wasn't any music there either. Only the sound that could be heard its head during this part with the woman saying, directed by, with the creepy thing that was the audio that used the country's native language, Hungarian, and this actually happened before CN started broadcasting cartoons recorded in Hungary. So it sounded like the announcer was slowly being strangled by something. The episode starts off with Sylvester standing in front of something that it looked like a military base. There wasn't any music or any sound there either. It was dead silence. Sylvester also didn't look like he did in the other cartoons. He just looked bruised and badly beaten with his eyes that had no pupils. He didn't say anything. He just looked very angry, and in the next scene he entered the military base, and it was empty. No guards, no soldiers were there. But Sylvester still entered, and he still wanted to get revenge on the people, what they did to him. So he decided to sabotage the military base by destroying all the lights hanging from the ceiling. This scene also looked very disturbing. While Sylvester was tearing down the lights, his claws grew to a ridiculous size, and they were covered in blood and oil. The only sound that could be heard during the scene was the sound of sparkling electricity, which also sounded very loud and frightening realistic. The scene was also flashing rapidly, making it even look more scarier and dangerous to people who suffer from epilepsy. This same scene also repeated itself 10 times, the last time including the part where Sylvester paused of what he was doing and said, "You people can't hide forever, and I'll get my revenge of what you guys did to me and the Looney Tunes gang," until it cut to the next scene. The next scene, Sylvester was at home. However, Granny, Tweety, or Hector were nowhere to be found. He was all alone. His room also looked empty and scary. The floor was blood red and the walls looked like if they were on fire. The room contained 2 tables, a large one that had something and looked like a toy Dalek with a screwdriver on it, a smaller one that had an ancient TV on it. There was also a window in the background, but the beams of it were misaligned. It also looked like an inverted crucifix. It's also on the outside of the pitch black was right outside, as if it was literally no existence outside the window. Sylvester proceeded to repair his toy Dalek with the screwdriver, and suddenly the TV on the smaller table behind him turned on by itself. The TV showed an extremely creepy cartoon with the background music sounded like somebody had randomly banging on the electric guitar, and the recording was reversed and played back that way. It started by showing off a forest and a cartoony moon above it with an extremely creepy look on its face. A few seconds later, it switched to a long room. The room was completely empty, but something could be heard lurking at the end of the room, and made it a really creepy metallic thumping sound with every step it made. A few seconds later, it switched to another end of the room. Porky Pig was standing there, also looking very angry, as he was holding a pistol in his hand, but he didn't look bruised like Sylvester did. He also said something that the monster on the other end of the room They fired his gun at a few times, and then it went to static. And then a few seconds later, a really loud bang was heard and the screen faded to red. A few seconds later, the red screen faded back to Sylvester in the room, standing next to the wreckage of his TV. He even looked even more angry, then bruised, and his eyes were blood this time. And the creepy image of angry Sylvester stayed on screen for about 10 seconds. Then it went to black. A few minutes later, Cartoon Network came back with the normal coming up next screen. And that, my little pretties, was Angry Sylvester, a Looney Tunes creepypasta. My final thoughts on this story? Okay, I'm gonna be completely honest. This story, in my opinion, I wasn't that crazy on this story. I'm going to be completely honest. Like, first of all, I would like to say a few things. Like, there's a few things that I would have to point out that I really did not care about this story, and I'm going to be completely honest. I don't have my headset on, and the reason why for that is because, well, there's no, any background noise going on, so, well, except for outside, but, there's, like, my mom's not blasting the sound of the TV or anything like she normally does. So, I'm going to sit here and, go on with this review. Now, Angry Sylvester, I remember Andal narrated this story, like, a few years ago, as well as, a couple other people have narrated this story. So I thought I would go ahead and, give out my thoughts on this story. So, with that said, this story was honestly confusing at the beginning. Having it broadcast, in Hungary, I mean, there wasn't really, that didn't really make any sense when, I read that part. Like, even the first paragraph, it didn't really make exactly a whole lot of sense. So that's kind of why the story is dropped a little bit on the overall rating. Like, I used to like this story, like, a whole lot. I guess, 2018 or something. But now I see the reasons why, some people weren't really a fan of this story. And, in my opinion, I'm not that crazy on this story. Like, I mean, the story is not terrible. I'm not gonna lie. It's not a terrible story. I'm stating that now. It's not terrible. It does need some work, though. Like, don't get me wrong, the grammar was really well written, and I can understand this being an older story as well. So I think this was written in 2016 or maybe 2017. I don't really remember when this was made. I know it was an older story, so I'm kind of willing to give this offer benefit of the doubt that this was like an older story. It does need work, though. Like, I mean, the episode of, Sylvester getting angry, there's, like, no explanation of why he's angry. At least he doesn't go all massacre and kill everyone. No, I'm grateful that it did not go down that route, because most creepypastas really do go down that route. Like, for example, pretty much every single cliched pasta. This one, I would also want to say that it was cliched in the middle of the story. I mean, it just didn't really make sense in the beginning, and it was, confusing. But when it got to the episode, it was just cliched. Like, thankfully, there was, like, no, what was it? Thankfully, there was no hyperrealistic blood or hyperrealistic gore, and thankfully, there was no, DVD or VHS cliche. Thank God for that, because, that's obviously cliched in most stories. But I'm gonna sit here and say, this story, well, to my honest opinion, I'm not that fan of this story. Like, I do like Looney Tunes as a kid. Like, I still like them now. But this story, it's just very confusing with, in the beginning. And then it fell downhill at the episode. Like, there's no better conclusion of it. Like, there's, like, the ending just didn't really explain how this episode come from, or why was this episode aired or something. Like, there was none of that. And, I mean, that obviously confuses me as to where the hell did this episode come from. Like, I'm intrigued to know what actually happened. I really want to know what actually happened. Like, what happened to this episode, how it was made or something. There's no explanation. What honestly would have been better for the ending is the author would have explained, how this episode was created or something. At least then, that would be a better ending than just sitting there and ended like a cliffhanger. I think this story is has a cliffhanger ending, and I mean, I don't care for cliffhanger endings that much, provided if there's a good context to why a certain story has to end in a cliffhanger. But in this, it just didn't make sense. That's just the main issue. But the story was not terrible, although it's not great either. So that's actually one of the reasons why I'm not that crazy on the story. Like, I mean, the episode needs to be, like, rewritten. Like, the story needs to, like, a complete rewrite, with better explanation and better understanding to it. That's my honest advice I can give to the author is that. But anyways, I can't seem to find out who the original author of this story is, and I've tried looking. So I'm just going to leave it as anonymous for now. To the author, if I do find out who you are and if you're the original author of this story, if you have, like, I don't know, a YouTube account or something, or any way, social media you have that you could contact me on, please let me know who you are so I can make sure to give you proper credit. I'll be sure to give this author proper credit if I do find out who the original author is. But anyways, I really would have to say, I'm not a crazy fan of this story. Like, it's not terrible, but not great either. So, I'm willing to give it some benefit of the doubt that it did try to come up with something a little bit different, but it needs a little bit more explanation and a little bit more better understanding. That's basically what I have to say about this story. But the story was not terrible, but it wasn't great either. So that's that. Anyways, with that being the case, that being said, this is just simply my own personal opinion. If you happen to disagree with me, that's fine too. We're all entitled to our own opinions regarding these creepypastas. This is just simply my own personal thoughts. My final rating of this story would have to be I'm gonna give this one a 5 out of 10. I'm giving it a 5 because the grammar was really well written, along with the sentence structuring. The paragraph structuring was good, although there were a few paragraphs that need to be spaced out a little bit. What else? Oh, yeah. The beginning was confusing. The episode was cliched. And this episode was really hard to understand at times. Like, there was, like, a little bit of a hard to understand where this episode come from. I would like to have a little bit more explanation. The ending could have been expanded a little bit and explained. Same thing with the episode itself. Although it's not terrible, but not great either. So that's why it's getting a 5 out of 10. Otherwise, it's an alright story. Not the best one I've read, but yeah, I've read better stories. I guess with that being the case, that being said, what did you guys think about this creepypasta? Did you all enjoy it? Did you all not? Also, what we have done personally to help make this story a lot better? Feel free to leave me know what your thoughts are down in the comment section down below. I'm the Queen of Lions. Thank you so much for watching today's episode. And if you happen to be brand new here on this channel, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe because I make brand new videos every single day. Don't forget to ring the notification bell to when I upload so then you guys will get notified to when I upload. And as always, please roll the outro because I'm out.